Hey guys, it's Landon Blake, ruggedly handsome, land surveyor extraordinaire. It is March 24th, 2025. On my commute into work, wanted to do another brain dump. I had about 20 minutes left on my commute here, so I thought I could fit in the brain dump. In this brain dump, truck brain dump, I'm going to talk about a situation I've got on a survey I'm doing. And there's some land title and boundary survey issues. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because it's the type of issues or problems that I've discovered on the survey. They're the type of things that most boundary surveyors run away from. So usually they leave this in their client's lap. And that's not what we do here at Redefine Horizons. We try and help our clients fix these problems because ultimately that's what needs to happen. We need to fix, we got to clean the title up and fix the boundary survey issues if possible. Usually we need help from a lawyer or title company to do that. We can't always do that on our own, but we can play a key role, facilitate that fix. And so that's something that ability to fix these challenging problems, to troubleshoot them and determine their cause and their impact, and to ultimately propose fixes is a really important part of what we do here at Redefine Horizons. And so I wanted to talk about this situation that I have on this survey in Stockton so that my team members can understand it and start getting a little bit of get some more exposure to how we fix these kinds of problems, because the ability to fix those complex problems are what our clients pay for. Let me describe the situation we've got. So we've got a parcel. It's on the northeast part of Stockton. It's actually not in the city. It's in the county. It's a fairly rural area. So I did a boundary survey. I actually found more monuments than I thought. The monuments fit together pretty well. They fit together with the record data within about a half a foot or less, which isn't bad for this older part of the county that we're in. These are fairly old parcels. This is a developed parcel, so it's got a building on it. It's got a commercial building on it and a parking lot, concrete parking lot, and a stormwater retention basin. And there's a block wall on the north side and the east side, and there's a wrought iron fence on the west side and the south side. So when I talked to the client and was getting a little bit of history on the property, I was told that at some point during construction or shortly before construction of the site, they gave 10 or 15 feet of their parcel to the north, to the neighbor on the north side. At the time when I was told that, I didn't really think about it, but I presumed they had done that with a lot line adjustment. Because in California, you can't just deed part of your property to the neighbor. You have to go through a process called a lot line. So when I got in and I started reviewing all the deeds to do my boundary survey, I didn't, it didn't seem like a lot line adjustment was done. So I could see where the transfer had been made, the 15-foot transfer, it looked like, both in my deed and in the neighbor's deed. But they didn't refer to a lot line adjustment or a notice of lot line adjustment, which was odd. And now it's possible that a lot line adjustment was done. And it's just when the land descriptions were written, they didn't refer to the lot line adjustment. But it's odd. There's no plats. Usually when you have a lot line adjustment, there'll be a plat in the deed. So no reference to the lot line adjustment, no in the land descriptions of the deeds, no plats in the deeds. And then the deeds are bad. Like the land descriptions in the deeds, both the subject parcel deed and the neighbor to the north they're just bad descriptions. They've got typos and misspellings, and they're not what I would consider to be well written. They look like they were written by a title company, somebody working at a title company or a paralegal maybe, or even worse, a civil engineer. And they do not look like their land descriptions written by a surveyor. Which makes me feel like, so all this kind of anecdotal evidence is making me feel like maybe there wasn't a lot line adjustment done. It feels like this might have got cowboyed and they might have just deeded 15 feet to the neighbor without doing a lot line adjustment. Okay, so that's the first problem. I'm going to come back and we'll talk about, all right, what are the consequences of that and what do we do about it? Okay, the other problem is It looks to me like the block wall on the north line, when I get to the west side, is about 3 or 4 feet into the neighbor's yard. That's a problem. So pretty large encroachment there into the neighboring property. I don't know how that happened. This was built relatively recently. So in the early 2000s, I would think there would have had to have been a site plan submitted for a building permit. I'm starting to think that maybe a survey wasn't done when they built this, which blows my mind. But it's possible I got a site out here with no survey. The other thing that makes me think that might be the case is this parcel is a deeded parcel that is not mapped, which under California law, if you do a boundary survey of that, you have to file a record of survey. There is no record of survey filed, which means either somebody surveyed that for the design and construction of the current improvements and didn't, and illegal and broke the law, didn't file a record of survey, or they just never got a boundary survey, or they got a half-baked boundary survey. Like they might have built this thing with no survey, which would explain why the wall's off 4 feet. So those are the two problems I got. Potentially an illegal transfer of that 15 feet and a wall that looks like it encroaches 3 feet into the neighbor's yard. Now, I got some poking around to do. So before I freak everybody out, I want to make sure that I really have the problems. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to the client, see if they got a survey during design and construction, see if they can give me a copy of the survey, get their permission to go down to the county and see what was submitted with the building permit and the grading permit application, see if there was a survey done as part of those documents. So I'm going to try and figure out, was there a survey? And then can I tell if there was a survey done or a property boundary shown on those documents, those permit documents, does it match the current location of the block wall? Or does it match what I have, how I've interpreted the deed? Maybe there was a survey and they interpreted that north line differently. Now, because of the problems in the land description, there are a couple different ways you can interpret that north line of the subject parcel. I don't think I think the differences there are going to be pretty small. I think they're going to be way less than 4 feet, but it's possible given some of that ambiguity, maybe the wall's where it's supposed to be if you interpret the deed line differently. And I'd like to know that. How did they show that north line on any kind of survey information that was submitted as part of the permit applications or the site plan? So there's a little historical digging I need to do there. I also want to I need to ask the client, do you remember if there was a lot line adjustment done? Do you remember hiring a surveyor to do that? I may, if I get the client's permission, go down and ask the county planning department, do you have a lot line adjustment application on file for either one of these parcels? If so, can I get that? Was the lot line adjustment completed? So I have some work to do. I don't want to go poking around at the county without the client's permission. I want to make sure they get permission to do that. So I'm going to try and, I think there's still a couple people at the client organization that were around in the early 2000s when this work was done. So I'm hoping they can shed some light on it for me. There's a good chance they won't be able to, they won't remember, or the right person is no longer around. But I will do some poking around with the client. And if they give me permission, I'll do some poking around at the county. Let's just say, for the purposes of our discussion, that I find out that they deeded that 15 feet to the neighbor without a lot line adjustment. So there was an illegal deed transfer and the block wall is over the line, 3 feet or 4 feet. Then the question is, how do we fix that? So let's deal with the encroachment first. There's a couple ways we could fix that. One is we could do a lot line adjustment if the neighbor agrees and we can move the deeded line to the wall. Okay, if I feel like there's enough ambiguity in the legal description, in the deeds, if there's enough ambiguity and uncertainty in the location of the line, we could do a boundary line agreement. If the neighbor's agreeable, and I suspect they will be, we can get a boundary line agreement done. I'll memorialize that on my record of survey. It's less expensive and we don't have to deal with the county planning department or the county surveyor. So that would be my preferred way to resolve the encroachment. The other thing that could happen is the wall could get moved. That's expensive, but that's a possibility. We got to see how willing is the neighbor to play ball. We got to find that out. On the illegal transfer of land to the neighbor, there's a couple things that could be done there. If we do a lot line adjustment to resolve the wall issue, we could just take care of the transfer to the neighbor as part of the new lot line adjustment. So that's an option. Like that's a vote in favor of doing a lot line adjustment. The other thing we could do is we could prepare corrective deeds for both parcels. I could clean up the land descriptions and we could file corrective deeds. I don't love that as much, but that's an option. That's something I would have to talk to an attorney about. The other option is we get what they call a certificate of compliance. In other words, we get the county to recognize that the parcels are valid legal parcels. And I would probably do that with some revised land descriptions. Now, there's a chance the county's going to tell us no, you got to go through the lot line adjustment process. And I don't know that's my preferred solution because usually you're getting a certificate of compliance because you want to at some point pull a building permit or do some type of development. And both of these parcels are developed already, so we don't really care. I'm more concerned about marketability of title than I am about the ability to pull a permit on either one of these parcels. So I don't know that certificate of compliance is the right way to go. So I think it's either going to be a corrective deed or it's going to be a quiet title. So we can quiet title. Now there's a couple things you could do there. We could quiet title to our parcel. That doesn't fix the problem with the neighbor's land description. They probably both need new land descriptions. So we could quiet title to our parcel. That doesn't fix the problem with the neighbor. We could help the neighbor quiet title to their parcel with some corrected legal descriptions on both sides. Oh man, yeah, I don't know what to do there. I got to find out what might make a difference to me. Did my client deed to the neighbor with a grant deed or a warranty deed, or did they deed with a quit claim? Because that makes a difference. If they deeded with a quit claim, we don't necessarily have an obligation to help the neighbor clean this up. If they deeded with a grant deed or a warranty deed, then we might need to do that. My client organization may have some liability to the neighbor there to provide good title. So this is a mess. So right now, I think I've got a couple problems. Before I hyperventilate and get everybody freaked out, I want to do some poking around. I got a meeting with the client Thursday. I'm going to sit down with a couple of people from the client organization and I'm going to explain what I think might be going on and ask those questions about some of the history of the parcel and try and get permission to go do some poking around at the county. Once I know exactly what I'm dealing with, once I've confirmed that I actually do have these problems, then I can work with the client and the client's organization. They've got some fairly savvy people. I can talk to them about, all right, what are our options? Is this something your guys' in-house lawyer is comfortable working with me on? Do I need to refer you to a land attorney? These are the types of problems that we are paid to solve. A lot of surveyors would get hired to do this boundary survey for $2,500. They would see these problems and they would walk away, right? Or they would just monument something or show some line that maybe isn't valid, right? That's not what we do here at Redefine Horizons. We analyze, troubleshoot, double check, triple check, confirm, and then propose solutions to get the issues cleaned up. Nobody is served by clouded title from an illegal deed transfer and a 4-foot block wall encroachment. Like that harms the neighbor. It harms my client. We don't have good title now. We can't refinance. We can't sell. We got to get this cleaned up. The longer you let these things sit, the more confusing and the worse it gets. I hope that brain dump helps some of my folks understand why we try and develop critical problem solving skills here and how we try and apply those skills to help our clients in a situation like this where there's boundary and title issues. We will also get this up on the web so that others might be able to benefit from it. Thank you for catching this truck brain dump. I'll do a couple more of these this week for sure.